Chief investigative correspondent at Yahoo News, Michael Isikoff, is in our Washington bureau and joins us now. Michael, thanks so much. Former Homeland Security Secretary Jeh Johnson testified Wednesday that his offers to protect voting systems from Russia's cyber attacks were turned down not once, but twice. So where did the resistance come from?
Well, the resistance first came from the DNC. Johnson said he and DHS offered to assist the DNC protecting its networks. The DNC didn't want the help. Now, we do know that the DNC at that point had hired a private contractor, CrowdStrike, that was seeking to secure the system. The FBI had its own issues trying to get access to the DNC server and getting the attention of the DNC. But Johnson's revelation in the testimony today was new, that there was also a difficulty that the Department of Homeland Security was having in getting cooperation for the DNC. But probably even more importantly, was what Johnson said later, which is in the summer when DHS learns that state election systems are being targeted by Russian state-sponsored hackers. He wants to declare the state voting, the country's voting system, part of the country's critical infrastructure, which would mean that there would be beefed up cybersecurity protections at the federal level for voting. And state election officials were, as he testified today, very cool to negative about this. They were worried about a federal takeover of the country's voting system. And so Johnson says he dropped the idea. And as a result, there were no federal, no expanded federal protections at that point. And that becomes even more significant when you hear the testimony that was taking place simultaneously in the Senate from other DHS officials saying that as many as 21 states were targeted by these Russian hackers last summer. Right.
With regards to those 21 states there, Michael, so far we've only heard of Arizona and Illinois. Why are the others being so quiet about it?
Well, you know, this was an issue of frustration on the part of some of the Democrats on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Warner. What the testimony was from the DHS officials who appeared today is that they don't normally make this information public, that's how DHS gets the cooperation of private entities or even public entities that have been targeted by cyber attacks. Very often, those entities don't want it publicly known that they might have been penetrated or even targeted. And apparently, in this case, the states that were targeted didn't want to come forward.
All right. Secretary Johnson and former FBI Director James Comey have now both testified under oath that the Russians hacked the 2016 election and warned that it could happen again. So I'm wondering, do you have any reporting, any insights into why the White House is remaining tight-lipped on this?
Well, yeah, there's one answer, and that's Donald Trump, who has been extremely reluctant to acknowledge that the Russians conducted this massive influence campaign in the 2016 election. He's kind of been dragged along, you know, resisted at every step of the way. At one point, he sort of begrudgingly said, yeah, I'll accept it, and then he seemed to walk back, and then remarkably this week, Sean Spicer at the White House was even unable to say whether the president still believes the Russians were behind that hack, even though the entire U.S. intelligence community has reached that conclusion. And as we've heard from the testimony, there is no doubt on the part of FBI, CIA, DNI officials to that effect. The president clearly feels any acknowledgement of this would somehow delegitimize his victory last November. It would look like there was something else that helped get him elected president, and he doesn't want to admit that. And, you know, that's really all it is. When you talk about reporting, it's nothing more than trying to understand what goes on in Donald Trump's head.
and a lot of people have been trying to report that. Michael Isikoff, we always appreciate your reporting. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Sure enough.